My 6-year-old daughter came home, and my family told her she was no longer welcome. They said the house wasn't hers anymore and told her to wait outside without asking questions. She waited alone, confused and terrified. I found out hours later, and what I did next changed everything. But before I begin, please like and subscribe to the channel. And we'd love to hear which part of the world are you joining us from. Let us know. Now let's dive into today's story. The beige split-level house sat on Oakwood Drive in Mason Ridge, Ohio, unremarkable except for the way the freeway noise never quite faded. Even at 3 in the morning, you could hear the distant rush of trucks hauling freight across state lines, the sound pressing against the windows like something alive and restless. Evelyn Mercer unpacked the last box on a Sunday afternoon in late September, feeling the weight of every decision that had brought her back to this place. The divorce papers were 3 months old. The ink had dried on a marriage that lasted 8 years, but probably should have ended after 5. She folded the empty cardboard flat and set it by the garage door, where her father Ronald would take it to recycling without a word. Her daughter, Noelle, sat cross-legged on the bedroom floor upstairs, arranging stuffed animals on the narrow bed that used to be Evelyn's when she was a child. The room still had the same pale yellow walls, the same closet door that stuck when you tried to open it. Evelyn stood in the doorway and watched her daughter work with the careful precision of a 6-year-old who understood that making things neat meant making them safe. "You okay, sweetheart?" Evelyn asked. Noelle looked up. Her dark hair was pulled back in 2 braids that were already coming loose. "Can we put the night light here?" "Wherever you want." "Okay." Noelle went back to arranging, her small hands positioning a worn teddy bear against the pillow. Downstairs, the television murmured. Evelyn could hear her mother Pat moving around the kitchen, the familiar rhythm of cabinets opening and closing. Her older sister Brenda's voice carried from the living room, talking to her husband Troy about something that required emphasis, the kind of tone that said she expected to be heard. Evelyn had grown up in this house. She knew its sounds, its smells, the way afternoon light came through the kitchen window and made patterns on the linoleum. But returning as an adult with a child of her own felt different, felt temporary, felt like borrowing space that didn't quite belong to her anymore. That first night, they ate dinner at the long table in the dining room. Pat had made meatloaf, green beans, mashed potatoes. Brenda sat at one end with Troy beside her, their teenage son picking at his food with the sullen energy of 15. Ronald sat at the head of the table, reading something on his phone between bites. Noelle ate quietly, cutting her meatloaf into small pieces. "She's very polite," Pat said, smiling at Noelle. "Such a good girl." "Thank you," Evelyn said. Brenda set down her fork. "We should probably talk about how this is going to work." Evelyn felt something tighten in her chest. "Sure. I mean, we're happy to help," Brenda continued, glancing at Troy, who nodded once. "But there are going to be some adjustments. We have routines here, schedules." "I understand." "And the rent situation," Troy added. His voice was flat, matter-of-fact. "We'll need to work out what's fair." Ronald finally looked up from his phone. "Your mother and I talked about it. $300 a month should cover utilities and food." Evelyn had done the math already. $300 was manageable if she kept working full-time at the warehouse, picked up overtime when she could. Childcare would still be a problem, but the elementary school was close enough that Noelle could walk home if someone was here to meet her. "That works," Evelyn said. Brenda leaned back in her chair. "And we'll need to coordinate pickup schedules. I have my own things to manage, so it can't always fall on me." "I'll figure it out," Evelyn said. "I don't want to be a burden." "You're not a burden," Pat said quickly, too brightly. "Family helps family." But Evelyn caught the look between Brenda and Troy, the slight tightening around her sister's mouth that said this was already more complicated than anyone wanted to admit. That night, after Noelle was asleep, Evelyn sat on the edge of her daughter's bed and listened to her breathe. The night light cast a soft glow across the room, turning the yellow walls amber. She thought about the apartment she'd left behind, the one with the broken dishwasher and the upstairs neighbors who fought at 2 a.m. She thought about the marriage that crumbled slowly, piece by piece, until there was nothing left to save. And she thought about what it meant to move backward in order to move forward. Her phone buzzed. A text from her supervisor at the warehouse. "Can you come in early tomorrow? We're short-staffed." Evelyn typed back, "I'll be there." She worked as a billing coordinator, which meant long hours in front of a computer screen, tracking shipments and correcting invoice errors and fielding calls from drivers who were running late or customers who hadn't received their orders. The pay was steady but not generous. The benefits were decent. The work was exhausting in a way that felt almost physical, even though she spent most of her days sitting down. But it was reliable, and reliability mattered more than anything now. The weeks settled into a pattern. Evelyn woke at 5:30, showered quickly, made coffee in the kitchen while the house was still quiet. She packed Noelle's lunch the night before, sandwich, apple slices, pretzels, a juice box. She labeled everything with Noelle's name in permanent marker because her daughter had a habit of losing things. By 6:15 she was dressed for work. By 6:30 she was on the road. Noelle woke at 7. Pat usually helped her get ready, making sure she ate breakfast and brushed her teeth. Brenda drove her to school most mornings, dropping her off before heading to her own job at a medical office across town. Evelyn texted Noelle every day at lunch. "How's your day going?" The responses were always short. "Good." "Okay." "We had art." After school, Brenda picked Noelle up and brought her back to the house. Evelyn usually got home by 6, sometimes later if there was an issue that needed resolving before the next shift started. By the time she walked through the door, dinner was often already over. Pat saved her a plate. Noelle sat at the table doing homework, her pencil moving slowly across lined paper. "How was school?" Evelyn asked every night. "Fine," Noelle said every night. Evelyn wanted to ask more. Wanted to know what Noelle did at recess, whether she was making friends, if the teacher was kind. But there was always laundry to fold, dishes to wash, emails to check. The hours bled together, and before she knew it, it was bedtime. "Brush your teeth," Evelyn said. "I'll be up in a minute." She tucked Noelle in every night, sitting on the edge of the bed while her daughter burrowed under the covers. "Did you have a good day?" Evelyn asked. "Yes." "Anything you want to talk about?" Noelle shook her head, her eyes already heavy. Evelyn smoothed a hair back from her daughter's forehead. "If anything ever feels wrong, you tell me." "Okay." "Okay." "I mean it. Anything." "I know, Mom." Evelyn kissed her forehead and turned off the overhead light, leaving the night light glowing softly in the corner. She never imagined the wrong thing would come from inside this house. By mid-November, the dynamic had sharpened into something harder to ignore. Brenda started making comments. Small things at first. Noelle left her backpack in the hallway again. "Can you make sure she keeps her voice down after school? I'm trying to work from home on Wednesdays." Evelyn apologized, reminded Noelle to be quieter, moved the backpack herself. Troy weighed in occasionally, his tone always casual but pointed. "You know, most people would be paying more for a setup like this. Just saying." Pat tried to smooth things over. "Oh, it's fine. We're all adjusting." But Ronald's silence said more than any of them. He watched from the edges of rooms, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Evelyn had grown up under that gaze, learning early that disapproval didn't need words. One evening, Evelyn came home to find Noelle sitting alone in her room, door half closed. "Hey," Evelyn said, stepping inside. "Why aren't you downstairs?" Noelle looked up from a drawing she'd been working on. "Aunt Brenda said I was being too loud." "Were you?" "I don't know. I was just talking." Evelyn crouched beside her. "What were you talking about?" "School. I told Grandma about the book we read." Evelyn felt something cold settle in her stomach. And Aunt Brenda told you to be quiet? Noelle nodded. She said I needed to give people space. Evelyn forced a smile. It's okay. You weren't doing anything wrong. But the next day it happened again. And the day after that. Evelyn started noticing the small corrections, the sighs when Noelle spoke, the way Brenda's face tightened whenever her daughter entered the room. Troy didn't look at Noelle much anymore. Ronald still said nothing. It wasn't cruelty exactly. It was colder than that. It was erasure. Evelyn wanted to confront them, but what would she say? That her daughter was too visible? That she took up too much space? It sounded paranoid even in her own head. And there was the money, the $300 a month, the roof over their heads, the proximity to Noelle's school. Evelyn swallowed her anger and kept working. The Wednesday that changed everything started like any other. Evelyn's supervisor called her into the office at 4 in the afternoon. We've got a shipment error. 50 pallets going to the wrong distribution center. I need you to stay late and fix it before the morning trucks roll. Evelyn glanced at her phone. Noelle would be getting out of school in 20 minutes. How late? Evelyn asked. Probably till 8. Maybe 9. Evelyn's jaw tightened. I need to make a call first. She stepped outside and dialed Brenda. The phone rang 4 times before Brenda picked up. Yeah. I have to work late, Evelyn said. Can you get Noelle from school? I'm busy. Brenda, please. It's an emergency at work. A long pause. Then, fine. I'll get her. Thank you. I'll be home as soon as I can. Whatever. The line went dead. Evelyn stood in the parking lot for a moment, staring at her phone. Something in Brenda's tone felt off. Too sharp, too dismissive, but there wasn't time to dwell on it. She went back inside and got to work. By the time Evelyn left the warehouse, the sky had gone dark and the temperature had dropped. She drove home with the radio off, her mind already planning the apology she'd give Brenda, the way she'd thank her for stepping in. She pulled into the driveway just before 8:30. The house was lit from the inside, warm light spilling through the windows. She could see movement in the living room. Brenda and Troy on the couch, Pat in the kitchen. Evelyn grabbed her bag and headed for the door. Inside, the television was on. Ronald sat in his recliner, reading a newspaper. Pat looked up from the sink. You're home, Pat said. Where's Noelle? Evelyn asked. Pat's expression flickered. Oh, Brenda handled it. Evelyn set her bag down. Handled what? Brenda appeared in the doorway between the living room and the kitchen, arms crossed. We need to talk. Where is Noelle? She's fine, Brenda said. She's upstairs. Evelyn moved toward the stairs, but Brenda stepped in front of her. I said, we need to talk. Evelyn stopped. Talk about what? Troy stood from the couch, positioning himself beside Brenda. Ronald didn't look up from his newspaper, but his silence felt deliberate now. Brenda's expression was calm, almost rehearsed. You're taking advantage of the situation here. You work constantly. You expect us to pick up the slack, and Noelle's behavior is becoming disruptive. Evelyn felt her pulse quicken. Disruptive? She's loud, Troy said. She doesn't listen. She takes up space. She's 6 years old. That's not an excuse, Brenda said. We have routines here. Boundaries. Evelyn's hands curled into fists at her sides. What did you do? We didn't do anything, Brenda said. We made a decision. What decision? Pat moved closer, her voice soft and careful. Evelyn, sweetheart, maybe we should all sit down and... What decision? Evelyn repeated, louder now. Brenda didn't flinch. We told her to wait outside. The words didn't register at first. Evelyn stared at her sister, trying to make sense of it. What? She got home from school, Brenda said, and we told her to wait outside until you got here. Evelyn's vision narrowed. You locked her out? We didn't lock anything, Troy said. We just told her she needed to give us space. For how long? Brenda shrugged. I don't know. A couple hours. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. A couple hours? She's fine, Brenda said. Mrs. Halloway next door saw her and brought her inside. We checked on her. She's upstairs now, like I said. Evelyn moved past them before anyone could stop her, taking the stairs 2 at a time. Noelle's door was closed. Evelyn pushed it open and found her daughter sitting on the bed, still wearing her coat and backpack. Mom, Noelle said quietly. Evelyn crossed the room and knelt in front of her, pulling her close. Are you okay? Noelle nodded against her shoulder, but Evelyn could feel her trembling. I'm sorry, Evelyn whispered. I'm so sorry. I didn't do anything wrong, Noelle said, her voice small and tight. I promise. I know. You didn't. Evelyn pulled back and looked at her daughter's face. Her cheeks were red from the cold. Her eyes were dry, but there was something behind them, something guarded and careful. Did they tell you why? Evelyn asked. Noelle shook her head. Aunt Brenda just said I couldn't come inside. She said not to knock. So I waited. Evelyn felt fury rise in her chest, hot and sharp. She helped Noelle out of her coat and backpack, then led her to the bathroom to wash her hands and face. Are you hungry? Evelyn asked. A little. I'll make you something. Downstairs, the house was quiet. Brenda and Troy had retreated to their bedroom. Pat stood in the kitchen, wringing her hands. Evelyn, Don't, Evelyn said. She made Noelle a peanut butter sandwich and poured her a glass of milk. They sat together at the table, the silence heavy and deliberate. Ronald appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. You should calm down, he said. Evelyn didn't look at him. Get out. This is my house. Then maybe you should have stopped them. Ronald's jaw tightened, but he turned and walked away. After Noelle finished eating, Evelyn tucked her into bed. She sat on the edge of the mattress, holding her daughter's hand until she finally fell asleep. Then she went back downstairs. Brenda was in the living room now, sitting beside Troy on the couch. Pat hovered near the hallway, watching. Evelyn stood in the center of the room, her voice steady and cold. Did anyone check the weather? Brenda frowned. What? Before you put my daughter outside, did anyone check the weather? Silence. It was 42 degrees, Evelyn said. She was out there for almost 4 hours. She had her coat, Troy said. Evelyn stared at him. She's 6. She's disruptive, Brenda said again, as if repeating it made it true. And you're not taking responsibility for that. Evelyn took a breath, held it, let it out slowly. Then she turned and went upstairs. She didn't sleep that night. She lay awake in the dark, listening to Noelle breathe in the next room, and felt the truth settle into her bones. This wasn't about discipline. It was about control, and she would never let them touch her daughter again. The next morning, Evelyn called in sick to work for the first time in 2 years. She made breakfast for Noelle, scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice, and sat with her while she ate. Pat stayed in her bedroom. Ronald left early for whatever errands filled his Thursdays. Brenda and Troy moved around the house like nothing had happened, their footsteps loud and deliberate overhead. Evelyn drove Noelle to school herself, walking her all the way to the classroom door. Mom, Noelle said, looking up at her, are we in trouble? No, baby, we're not. Is Aunt Brenda mad at me? Evelyn crouched down so they were eye level. Listen to me. You didn't do anything wrong. Do you understand? Noelle nodded, but her eyes were uncertain. I'll pick you up today, Evelyn said. Right here. 3 o'clock. Okay. Evelyn kissed her forehead and watched her walk into the classroom, then stood there for another minute, making sure she settled in. On the drive back to the house, Evelyn let herself think clearly for the first time in hours. The pattern had been there all along. She just hadn't wanted to see it. The comments about Noelle being too loud, too disruptive, too much. The way Brenda sighed whenever Evelyn asked for help. The way Troy calculated costs and favors like a ledger. The way Pat tried to smooth over every conflict with hollow reassurances. And Ronald, silent, watching, letting it happen. They wanted Evelyn small and grateful. They wanted her working constantly, contributing money, staying out of the way. And Noelle had become a tool, a way to remind Evelyn of her place. Back at the house, Evelyn went straight to her room and closed the door. She opened her laptop and started searching for apartments. Most were too expensive. Some required 6 months of pay stubs and a cosigner. Others were in neighborhoods she wouldn't feel safe in, not with Noelle. But she kept looking. By noon, she'd found 3 possibilities. By 2, she'd scheduled tours. By 3, she was back at the school, waiting outside Noelle's classroom. Noelle came out with her backpack slung over one shoulder, smiling when she saw Evelyn. "Hi, Mom." "Hey, sweetheart. How was your day?" "Good. We learned about magnets." "That sounds fun." They drove to a park across town, one with a playground and open grass and benches where mothers sat watching their children. Evelyn bought them both hot chocolate from a food truck, and they sat together, the sun low and golden through the trees. "Can I ask you something?" Evelyn said. Noelle sipped her hot chocolate. "Okay. Yesterday, when you were outside, did anyone else see you? Besides Mrs. Halloway?" Noelle thought about it. "I don't think so." "Did you knock on the door?" Aunt Brenda said not to. "Did you try?" Noelle shook her head. "I didn't want to make her mad." Evelyn felt something crack inside her chest. "You're allowed to knock, baby. You're allowed to ask for help." "I know, but she said not to." Evelyn set her cup down and wrapped her arm around Noelle's shoulders. "From now on, if something feels wrong, you tell me. Even if someone says not to. Even if it's family. You tell me. Okay. Promise." "Promise." They stayed at the park until the sun started to set, and when they finally drove back to the house, Evelyn felt something harden inside her. She wasn't going to yell. She wasn't going to make threats. She was just going to leave. That night, after Noelle was asleep, Evelyn sat at the kitchen table with her phone and a notebook, making a list. She needed documentation, evidence, not for revenge, but for protection. If Brenda or Troy or anyone else tried to twist the story later, Evelyn wanted the truth written down. She started with a text to Mrs. Halloway, the neighbor who'd found Noelle. "Hi, this is Evelyn Mercer from next door. I wanted to thank you for helping Noelle yesterday. Would you be willing to write down what you saw, just for my records? I'm trying to make sure I have everything documented." The response came 15 minutes later. "Of course. I'll email it to you tomorrow." Next, Evelyn went through her phone, saving screenshots of the text exchange with Brenda. The short replies, the dismissiveness. She pulled up the school's dismissal logs. Parents could access them online, and confirmed that Noelle had been marked as picked up at 3:17 on Wednesday, which meant Brenda had her from then until Mrs. Halloway intervened around 7. Almost 4 hours. Evelyn wrote it all down. Dates, times, names. Brenda appeared in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed. "What are you doing?" Evelyn didn't look up. "Paperwork." "At 10 at night." "Couldn't sleep." Brenda stepped closer. "Look, about yesterday." "I don't want to talk about it." "You're overreacting." Evelyn set her pen down and finally looked at her sister. "You put my daughter outside for 4 hours in 40-degree weather because she was disruptive. What part of that am I overreacting to?" "She's fine." "That's not the point." "Then what is the point?" Evelyn stood, keeping her voice low and controlled. "The point is that you don't get to decide how my daughter is treated. You don't get to punish her because you're annoyed. And you definitely don't get to lock her out of the house." "We didn't lock." "You told her not to knock. You told her to wait. That's the same thing. Brenda's jaw tightened. You're being dramatic. Maybe. You're making this into something it's not. Evelyn picked up her phone and notebook. I'm going to bed. Evelyn. But she was already walking away. Upstairs, she sat on the edge of her bed and allowed herself 1 minute of shaking. Just one. Then she took a breath, steadied herself, and opened her laptop again. By midnight, she'd found an apartment. Small, 1-bedroom, on the other side of town. It was more than she wanted to spend, but the landlord was willing to work with her on the deposit. She called the next morning and put down the money. Over the next 2 weeks, Evelyn moved in silence. She worked her regular shifts at the warehouse, picked Noelle up from school herself every day, and spent evenings packing their belongings into boxes she hid in the garage. She labeled everything carefully. Clothes, books, kitchen, Noelle's toys. She didn't tell anyone. Not Pat, who kept asking if she was okay. Not Ronald, who watched her with that same unreadable expression. And definitely not Brenda, who'd started avoiding her entirely. The school counselor called one afternoon. Hi, this is Ms. Rivera from Mason Ridge Elementary. I wanted to check in about Noelle. One of the teachers noticed she seemed quieter than usual. Evelyn's heart sank. Is she okay? She's fine, but I thought it might be good to talk. Would you be able to come in? They met the next day during Evelyn's lunch break. Ms. Rivera was in her 40s, with kind eyes and a way of speaking that felt careful but not condescending. Noelle's a great kid, Ms. Rivera said. Smart, creative, well-behaved. But she's been more withdrawn lately. Has something changed at home? Evelyn hesitated. Then, we're living with family right now. It's been an adjustment. I see. There was an incident last week, Evelyn continued. My sister left her outside for several hours. Noelle's fine, but I'm in the process of moving us out. Ms. Rivera's expression shifted. Was this reported? Not yet. Do you feel Noelle is safe? She will be, Evelyn said, once we're out of there. Ms. Rivera nodded slowly. If you need support, resources, documentation, anything, we can help with that. I might take you up on that. Please do. They talked for another 20 minutes, and by the end of it, Evelyn felt something she hadn't felt in weeks, supported. She wasn't alone in this, and Noelle wouldn't be either. The day they moved, Evelyn waited until everyone was out of the house. Brenda was at work. Troy had an appointment. Pat had taken Ronald to a doctor's visit across town. The house was empty and quiet, the only sound the hum of the refrigerator and the distant freeway. Evelyn loaded everything into her car in 3 trips. The boxes she'd packed, the suitcases, the bags of clothes, Noelle's stuffed animals and books. The nightlight. She left nothing behind. On the kitchen table, she placed an envelope with $300 in cash, 1 month's rent, paid in full, and a note written in careful, deliberate handwriting. This covers November. We're leaving. Don't contact us. She locked the door behind her and drove to the new apartment, Noelle quiet in the back seat. Is this our new home? Noelle asked when they pulled up. Yes. Just us. Just us. Noelle looked out the window at the small building, the trees lining the street, the playground visible at the end of the block. I like it, she said. Evelyn felt something loosen in her chest. Me too. They spent the rest of the day unpacking. Evelyn set up Noelle's room first. Bed, nightlight, stuffed animals arranged exactly the way she liked them. Then they worked on the living room, the kitchen, the tiny bathroom with its chipped tile and old fixtures. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. That night, Evelyn made spaghetti for dinner. They ate at the small table by the window, watching the sun set through the trees. Mom. Noelle said, Yeah. Are Grandma and Grandpa going to visit? Evelyn set down her fork. I don't think so, sweetheart. Why not? Because we need space right now. Just you and me. Noelle thought about that. Okay. Is that okay with you? Yeah, I like it being just us. Evelyn reached across the table and squeezed her daughter's hand. Later, after Noelle was asleep, Evelyn sat on the couch with her phone. She'd been expecting calls, messages, something, but there was nothing. Not yet. She knew it wouldn't last. The first call came at 7 the next morning. Evelyn saw Pat's name on the screen and let it ring through to voicemail. The second call came 10 minutes later, then a third. By noon, there were 6 missed calls and 4 text messages. Evelyn, please call me back. Where are you? Are you okay? Your father is very upset. We need to talk about this. Evelyn deleted them without responding. Brenda called that afternoon. Evelyn watched the phone buzz on the counter, then turned it face down. Troy tried next, then Ronald. The messages piled up, each one more insistent than the last. This is ridiculous. You're overreacting. We're family. You can't just leave. At least tell us where you are. Evelyn made dinner, helped Noelle with her homework, gave her a bath. She moved through the evening with a calm that felt almost mechanical, like she was watching herself from outside her own body. Finally, at 9 o'clock, she sat down and typed a single message. She sent it to Brenda, copied Pat and Ronald. You left my child outside and expected silence. That ends everything. Do not contact me again. She blocked all 3 numbers before anyone could respond. Troy's number, too. Then she set her phone down and exhaled. The next day, Evelyn went to the local police station. The officer at the front desk was young, maybe mid-20s, with tired eyes and a professional courtesy that felt rehearsed. How can I help you? He asked. I need to file a report, Evelyn said. What kind of report? Child neglect. The officer's expression shifted. He handed her a clipboard with forms attached. Fill these out. Someone will be with you shortly. Evelyn sat in a plastic chair near the window and wrote everything down. The date, the time, the temperature, the fact that Noelle had been told not to knock, the neighbor who'd intervened. She included Mrs. Holloway's written statement, which had arrived in her email the day before, printed and signed. A detective called her into an office 20 minutes later. Her name was Officer Brennan, and she had the kind of face that suggested she'd heard every story there was to hear. Walk me through it, Officer Brennan said. Evelyn did, slowly, carefully leaving nothing out. Officer Brennan took notes, asked clarifying questions, nodded occasionally. And you've moved out? She asked when Evelyn finished. Yes. Do you feel your daughter is safe now? Yes. Officer Brennan set her pen down. I'm going to be honest with you. Cases like this are hard to prosecute, especially when it's family. The burden of proof is high, and defense attorneys are very good at making it look like misunderstandings. Evelyn nodded. I'm not here for prosecution. Then why are you here? Because I want it on record. If they try to twist this later, if they try to say I'm being dramatic or unreasonable, I want the truth written down. Officer Brennan studied her for a moment. Then she nodded. Fair enough. I'll file the report. You'll get a copy in the mail. Thank you. One more thing, Officer Brennan said. If they contact you again, if there's any harassment or threats, you come back here. Understood? Understood. Evelyn left the station feeling lighter than she had in weeks. The school counselor, Ms. Rivera, called 2 days later. I heard you filed a report, she said. Just wanted to let you know that if you need any additional documentation from the school, attendance records, behavioral observations, anything, we can provide that. Thank you, Evelyn said. I might take you up on that. How's Noelle doing? Better. She's sleeping through the night now. That's good. And you? Evelyn paused. I'm okay. It's a lot to carry, Ms. Rivera said. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, too. Evelyn promised she would and meant it. That evening, she and Noelle walked to the park at the end of the block. It was early December now, the air cold and sharp, the trees bare against a pale sky. Noelle ran ahead to the swings, her coat flapping behind her. Evelyn sat on a bench and watched her daughter play, feeling the weight of the past month settle into something manageable. She'd left. She'd filed the report. She'd protected Noelle, and she wasn't going back. Pat tried one more time. She showed up at the apartment unannounced on a Saturday afternoon, knocking softly on the door. Evelyn opened it, but didn't step aside. "Hi," Pat said. Her voice was small, uncertain. "Can we talk?" "No. Evelyn, please. I just want to understand." "Understand what?" "Why you left. Why you won't talk to us." Evelyn leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "You know why. Brenda made a mistake. She knows that now." "Does she?" Pat wrung her hands. "She's upset. We all are. Your father, he doesn't understand. That's not my problem. You're my daughter." "And Noelle's mine," Evelyn said. "And when I asked you to protect her, you didn't. You stood there and watched while Brenda put her outside. So no, I don't want to talk." Pat's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't know what to do. You could have said something. I didn't want to cause a fight. So you let my daughter freeze on the back steps." "It wasn't like that." "Yes, it was." Pat took a shaky breath. "What do you want me to say?" "Nothing," Evelyn said. "I want you to leave." "Evelyn." "I mean it. Go." Pat stared at her for a long moment, then turned and walked back to her car. Evelyn watched until she drove away, then closed the door and locked it. Noelle appeared in the hallway. "Who was that?" "Grandma." "Is she mad?" "Probably. Are you mad?" Evelyn crouched down and looked her daughter in the eyes. "No, sweetheart. I'm just done." By mid-December, the calls had stopped. Evelyn's phone stayed quiet. No messages, no voicemails, no unexpected visits. She didn't feel victorious. She felt tired, relieved, steady. She worked her shifts at the warehouse, picked Noelle up from school every day, made dinner in their small kitchen. They fell into a new routine, one that belonged to them alone. Noelle started smiling more, talking more. She made a friend at school, a girl named Lily who invited her over for playdates. Evelyn met Lily's mother, a kind woman who worked at the library and understood what it meant to rebuild a life from the ground up. "You're doing a good job," Lily's mother said one afternoon, watching the girls play in the backyard. Evelyn smiled. "Thanks. It doesn't always feel like it." "It never does. But you are." At night, after Noelle was asleep, Evelyn sat on the couch with a cup of tea and let herself feel the quiet. She thought about the person she'd been a year ago, apologizing constantly, shrinking herself to fit into spaces that didn't want her, believing that keeping the peace meant swallowing harm. She wasn't that person anymore. She'd learned something about herself in the months since leaving, something she hadn't known before. She wasn't cruel. She wasn't dramatic. She wasn't overreacting. She was done. And that clarity, that absolute, unshakable certainty, felt like freedom. On Christmas Eve, Evelyn and Noelle decorated a small tree they bought from a lot down the street. They strung lights and hung ornaments, some old and some new. Noelle put a paper star on top, the one she'd made in art class. "Do you think Santa knows where we live now?" Noelle asked. "I think he'll figure it out," Evelyn said. They made hot chocolate and watched a movie, curled up on the couch under a blanket. The apartment was warm, the lights soft, the world outside quiet and dark. "Mom." Noelle said, "Yeah, I'm glad we live here." Evelyn kissed the top of her head. "Me too, baby." Later, after Noelle was asleep, Evelyn stood by the window and looked out at the street. Snow had started to fall, light and slow, dusting the sidewalks and parked cars. She thought about family, what it meant, what it didn't mean. Blood didn't make you safe. Proximity didn't make you kind. Family, she understood now, wasn't about who you were born to. It was about who showed up, who stayed, who never locked the door, and that was a rule she would never bend again.